Hey guys, Pat Ryerke here, also known as the Patriarchy. So I'm a huge South Park fan. In saying that though, I have not loved the last few seasons of South Park. That doesn't mean I've disliked them, but I don't hold the praise some people do of seasons 18 or so on. I don't think the PC culture attacking narrative was that great. I think there was one season with continuity with the Lord stuff that started off really good and then ended up being very weak. And I felt like the season after that started off really poor and then got good as it went along. Now, the last season I actually thought was pretty good, and I thought it had the most focus and the best use of the continuity so far that Trey and Matt have done. And they kind of backed away from a lot of the political humor and, went back to just, weird humor for the sake of weird humor in South Park, like the member berries or just the stuff with the trolling and all that. I thought that was much more traditional South Park. I personally wanted the show to end for a few years and Trey and Matt move on to other things. I think Book of Mormon was the next step for them. I saw Book of Mormon. I saw a Broadway show of that. I think it's the best thing they've ever done. I would prefer if they would go do like a Cannibal the Musical stage adaptation or go make movies. I really think they've moved on from South Park. I especially think the week to week format they do now and the satire. I think it's kind of played out. I'm not saying that I still don't enjoy South Park. It just hasn't made me laugh in a long time, and I don't feel that emotional connection to it like I used to. It's not that it's bad. It's just not. I don't know. I just feel like Trey and Matt are wasting their talents in a universe that they've grown beyond, or at least they've run out of ideas for it. I think they'd be more passionate on something else. Hopefully, they do more in the future. But this is about how they are talking about it. They're going to do less Trump jokes in future episodes, and when they did an interview with ABC, because I guess they said that they couldn't do satire on it because the stuff happening in the real world now is much funnier than anything they could ever make jokes about. So we're going to look at a couple articles here about it. South Park creators Matt Stone and Trey Parker have stated that they will be backing off ridiculing President Donald Trump in future episodes, believing it is too hard to satirize the current administration. The popular cartoon TV show featured a storyline last season that had one of the regular characters emulate many characteristics of President Trump, satirizing both the primary and general elections. This season, however, is less likely to feature further ridicule of the president, as the show's creators Matt Stone and Trey Parker state that they will be backing off ridicule of everybody in government. It feels like that it's going to be more difficult, said Matt Stone in an interview with ABC. They're already going out and doing the comedy, added Trey Parker, referencing Donald Trump's cabinet members. It's not something you can make fun of, Stone continued. We're having our head blown off like everybody else. It's tricky, and it's really tricky now as satire has become reality, said Parker. We were really trying to make fun of what was going on last season, but we couldn't keep up. What was actually happening was way funnier than anything we could come up with, so we decided just to back off and let politicians do their comedy and we'll do ours. Whether the Trump-inspired storyline will continue into South Park's 21st season, set to be released later this year, is unknown, but based on Parker and Stone's comments, it seems unlikely. Alright, now here's an article from Salon where they try to spin this much more negatively. That, it says here, the creators of South Park, like so many other comedians, just don't find President Trump funny anymore. So it's like it's so serious and scary now that there's no humor found in it. I think that betrays a little bit what Trey Parker was getting at. I think maybe Matt Stone was going that way a little political with it. I think Trey Parker, my interpretation was that he was just saying it was way funnier what was happening in the real world, and I think that goes for everyone. I think that goes for the left and the right. Because they've been making fun of PC culture, so clearly they find the humor in that. And I've always heard they were libertarians. I don't know if that's true or not. But Trey Parker, I always feel like he's more about the humor than he is any kind of message overall. This happened back in the day when he said he wasn't an atheist in an interview. And they made fun of atheists on South Park. And they said they got more hate mail from atheists than they ever did when they attacked religion. And the thing about South Park is they try to be fair with their criticism. They don't try to have a one-sided critical view. Now, I do think they push messages sometimes. I especially think the show's preachier now than it used to be. But I still think Trey, at the end of the day, is a very unpretentious artist. I think that's one of the best things about Trey Parker, is that he's kind of brilliant, and he never makes a big deal about being so brilliant. And I love that about him. He doesn't actually draw attention to the fact that he's super, super talented and can do all sorts of things. I mean, drama, comedy, theater. He's very talented. I mean, the guy went out and won a bunch of Tony Awards and shit, but he doesn't have to do that stuff. He's got an Oscar nomination for Best Song. Trey Parker's a mad talent, And he just doesn't make a big deal out of it, and I always really like that about him. He lets the work speak for itself. South Park has been around to spoof the presidencies of Bill Clinton, George W. Bush, and Barack Obama. When it comes to Donald Trump, though, creators Trey Parker and Matt Stone aren't sure they can keep up. Okay, so there's the tricky now quote that we have already read before, but I think there's some stuff that we didn't get to in the last article. It was like what was actually happening was way funnier than anything we could come up with, so we just decided to back off and let them do their comedy, we'll do ours. People say to us all the time, like, oh, you guys are getting all the good material. We're happy about some of the stuff that's happening, but I don't know if that's true. It doesn't feel that way. This isn't the first time that the creators of South Park have had an uncharacteristically somber reaction to the Trump phenomenon, which they parodied on their show by using perennial character Herbert Garrison as a Trump stand-in. During an interview with Vulture in July, Stone explained that he felt there was an importance between the show's opposition to political correctness and comedy and the anti-PC arguments being used to justify Trump's brazen campaign rhetoric. So the idea here is that, they're saying they can do the satire and that harsh comedy and attack political correctness for the sake of comedy, like iDubbbz would. But they're saying that people are trying to say political correctness justifies the bad decisions Trump makes. Now, I agree with that. Just because Trump is going against PC culture and the feminists and all the people that we hate Trump, that doesn't mean that we can let Trump get away with everything he does just because, we like the people that it hurts. We still have to hold Trump accountable, and that's the distinction we really have to make. I feel like a lot of people in the skeptic community and the anti-SJW community on this site are being very light on Trump, and I don't care. I haven't been harsh on Trump, but it does feel like we're picking our battles very selectively these days about who we choose to attack. And that's not good for anyone. Comedians especially, that's probably where we identify and have the most sympathy with anti-PC forces is within comedy, Stone told Vulture. Not talking to people or trying to get elected, that's a different standard. There's shit that you shouldn't say running for president. The character Eric Cartman should totally be allowed to say within a satirical cartoon. I don't necessarily agree with that, but I get what he's saying. I think Matt's a smart guy. I don't think he's being a dick here. When I see a politician or a Donald Trump say political correctness, I'm like, that's not the same shit that we're talking about in the writer's room. There's satire over here in cartoons, and you're standing on stage in a suit and you want me to vote for you. Different standard, On some level, but I think at the same time, the idea that we had that standard about politics is what kind of led to Trump, is that we gave politicians this pass to not say things that we would hear in a normal, conversation in a writer's room. I mean, I think the grab by the pussy thing would have been a bit on South Park, and people would make jokes about it, but Trump says something like that, and it gets recorded, and then people take it very, very seriously, and then exaggerate it to suit their narrative. I honestly don't know how to talk about it, Jeanine Garofalo told Salon in January. I don't have jokes. You can't parody it because it's self-parody, and it's just so tense. Later she told an audience during one of her stand-up routines, I don't have jokes about it because if you're a reasonable person who has any emotional intelligence or empathy of any kind, there's a void. I'm bereft. Why or... I don't know. She's bereft because there's no empathy, I guess. Who cares what Jeanine Garofalo says? She's like a fucking psycho leftist. And not that funny of a stand-up. Very good actress, though. Another comedian, Joe List, told Salon that he has been avoiding discussing Trump because if you're pro-Trump, then that's not somebody who I'm really interested in engaging with. As put by Joe Hairday, the manager at the comedy club, The Stand, before the election there were a lot of jokes about Trump, and after the election it kind of fizzled out because they did so much of it. Yeah, you did kind of burn out the Trump jokes. But this is interesting. Does this mean that comedians are reflecting on some level and they realize that the humor around Trump and making Trump almost such a big figure helped him become the president? Or do they feel so defeated that they don't want to make fun of Trump anymore because... I mean, I know they're going to say it's self-parody and the satire is really happening. I don't quite agree with that. I think they're just picking the wrong things to make fun of Trump about. They're picking things that are based in those progressive emotional arguments, or overpraising Obama and stuff like that. Why don't you just find new ways to look at the satire? Why don't you find new ways to approach Trump? Why don't you find new ways to creatively look at Donald Trump? Maybe look at him from a different point of view where you take him somewhat seriously to make fun of him and don't do the Samantha Bee Trevor Noah thing where you just throw bullshit basic jokes at us that are incredibly unfunny that nobody wants to hear. I mean, I'm not the world's biggest Jon Stewart or Stephen Colbert fan and stuff, but those guys they had comedy timing. They were funny guys. They were funny comedians. I just didn't agree with what they were pushing. These people now are really unfunny, and they have no balls. I don't think Trey and Matt need to do this, and I think it's going to benefit the show to not do Trump humor. But it felt like with the Salon article, yeah, or even with Matt Stone's statements, they're trying to say that Trump's stance against political correctness is somehow different than a comedian's stance against political correctness. But I think they fall in line with the same thing. It's against that establishment, big government telling you what to do. Be it, with the First Amendment, the Second Amendment, the things that people really care about in this country, a lot of people that make them feel American and those rights that they fight for. I think that was a big part of the Trump support. And I think you guys ignoring that on some level. But they did say they were happy about some of the things going on. I don't know if they mean comedically or they're actually happy with some of the things Trump has done. I don't think all of his cabinet picks are pure satire. I think it is a little bit, but I think that's a bit of an exaggeration. But it's, I'm unhappy with a lot of things Trump's done, but I still think you could make jokes and not do, the SNL rhetoric bullshit where they just have Alec Baldwin come out and do a bad impersonation for fucking 5 minutes, and they make jokes that only really are super funny if you completely hate Trump. I'd like to see something more in the middle, and South Park was good at that, at criticizing Hillary and Trump, but like I said, it's probably better for the show to not go in that direction. I prefer if the show would end soon anyway. That's just me, though. I'm not speaking for all South Park fans. If people still want to watch the show, that's cool. But I think the longer it goes on, it has a higher chance of having really bad seasons. And I don't want that at all. I don't want to sit through like a terrible season of South Park. So, I guess there's nothing really to add here. There'll just be less Trump content in the future on South Park. Are you happy about this? Do you agree with this? Do you like where South Park's at right now? How do you feel about these political things? Do you think comedians should make fun of Trump or stop? How do you feel about all that? I care about what you got to say. So like, comment, and subscribe. And this is the Patriarchy. And screw you guys. I'm going home.